You're listening to the Slavic Literature Pod, your shelf help guide to all things Slavic. I'm Cameron Lolana.
And I'm Matt Gerasimovich.
And today we're covering Part 1, Chapter 39 of Vasily Grossman's Life and Fate, moving on from the war front to talk about a different kind of front all the way back east, the prison camp system. Now we're finally getting to that part of Life and Fate. So this is a brief introduction to it, but I think in Grossman's typical style, this sparse chapter really gives us a lot more, sometimes than even his longer ones. Is there anywhere in particular that you would like to start?
I would say back east like it's a fun, nostalgic little thing.
I have no positive associations with the East.
Okay.
All I have at the East is, what is it? The Eastern Seaboard that can fall into the ocean. I don't know. We can start the United States at Chicago. I'm fine with that.
This chapter was I think a good one to pair with yesterday's chapter. Or well, I don't even know. I'm losing track of all the days, but the previous chapter, let's say. I think that the nature imagery we were beginning to love so much, that was giving us so much of a break from the real grueling interpersonal moments of loss, has come back to really bite us. I think that the nature imagery in today's chapter was not so soothing. And Grossman shows us this other end of nature where instead of seeing just this beautiful infinite space that gives you this feeling of peace and no hatred can exist, and hate is impossible, there's only love. Well, now you see the sort of infinite expanse of this prison system. And in particular, he's talking about the Far Eastern Construction Trust, which was a network of really brutal prison camps. I don't believe they started as camps. I believe they started as actual, they used actual non-prison workers, but because the conditions were so brutal and cold and just unpleasant, it started to have to be staffed by prison labor. And so that's not a good start. And just the way that the taiga looks, and the way that Grossman describes hundreds of square miles of taiga lay frozen in icy silence. But the camp was crowded with people, full of noise, movement, and light. So it's kind of an interesting contrast that we get. Any sort of positive that we're going to find here will not be found in nature, but instead, and maybe small fleeting moments between people that are in a really undesirable situation.
Yeah, for sure. And the nature, so the introduction, the way that the environment is given to us, I also found really interesting, especially comparing against the opening of the book, where we are kind of introduced to the prisoner of war camp, where we have the beginning. It's almost like emerging from the mist, right? You've got these drivers. It's slow. It's in the morning. It's very singular. It's about this camp, right? You've got this kind of sense of being in this one place. Whereas for this whole section of camps, you really get a sense of vastness. You're not talking about one particular place. You're just talking about a whole region. Sirens begin to howl in the mines. Somewhere in the taiga, the wolves howled out an accompaniment. The watchtower watches them all with its single eye. Throughout the north, sirens continued to howl. The same orchestra struck up over Krasnoyarsk, over the autonomous Republic of Komi, over Sovietskaya Gavan, over the snows of Kolyma, the Chukotka tundra, and the camps of Murmansk in northern Kazakhstan. It keeps going on from there. Just like we talked previously about this idea that many people went through the system who were arrested, and they kind of got the sense that the system did me wrong, but everyone else deserves to be here. And we'll talk about it more tomorrow. Almost this kind of repudiation of that idea, which is incredibly pervasive. It's not just in Grossman's work. You see it all. And anytime you engage with anything about the Gulag, you'll probably come across that idea. And here Grossman is really like not giving the sense that, okay, this is just here, this is just a one-off. He's really trying to convey to you the scape and scale of this camp system of the Dalstroy.
Yeah, it's one of those instances where him kind of zooming out on the area around is kind of terrifying, really, to show you the complexity and scale of what's happening, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's all I had today.
Yeah, I think this is I like this chapter. I mean, it really really broke up what we were reading for sure
Yeah,
in a
right.
very different way.
A lot of recontextualization. Yeah, and like you said, especially compared to the last few chapters of that quiet nature that Viktorov is feeling. This sense of I think also too, I mean, this is kind of hitting on the same note, but Viktorov's sense of this forest is so beautiful reminds me of old Russia, that time of legends.
Hmm.
And now we have here a time entirely devoid
We have
of
industrial mining Russia.
right. We go from, a time immemorial, a time literally out of time, to a time which everyone has since then been trying to forget. Great.
Hmm.
I think this is a great back to back.
I agree. And since I think we're at the end of our analysis here, in that case, you will hear from us again soon.